Hi and welcome to my PlayHouse. And today we're going to be looking at Synology's Rackstation, and this one is the RS3614, and then it's called RPxs. Really? Yeah, it's longer than normal. Well, Synology writes that Synology Rackstation RS3614RPxs provides the reliable and ultra high performance network attached storage solution for the large scale business that requires an efficient way to centralize data protection, simply blah 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 blah. I'm sure it does. We're just gonna have a sneak peek at it. I have borrowed this. I have a friend that has purchased this secondhand. This Rackstation is from 2014, so it's already over 6 years old. But these Rackstations, they really keep their price. From new, this one was about 35,000 Danish kroners. Now he got it for about 12,000 Danish kroners, and that's a really good price for 6+ years hardware. But you haven't really seen it yet. It's almost outside of framing, so let's see what we have. This is what it looks like. This one has room for 12 drives. It has a power on button here, and then there's an alert kill button. Well, if there is some error on it, it will beep and then you can kill it there. Awesome. This is supplied with 6 drives. As I said, it was used. So this one has some very nice Western Digital 6 terabyte red drives, which is well, Western Digital's NAS drives from before they screwed up. So awesome. There should be 6 of those. I wonder how they're populated. So this one is empty. So probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Are we correct? Yeah, that's probably the last one right there. So the name here says that it's the RS3614 RPxs. That means that there is room for 36 drives. That means that 12 of them goes in here, and then this box can be attached to 2 expansion boxes, just like it, just not as smart, just more like empty disk shells. So yeah. Here is the label for it. I'm just covering up the serial number and the MAC addresses so that no one gets any good idea to install Synology with those. So let's turn it around, see the back. Here we have the back, and we see immediately that we have a redundant power solution. This is their high-end equipment. Oh, and it doesn't... Oh, they've screwed it into place. They don't want that falling out, I guess. So, but 2 individual power supplies here, which can be turned on and off separately. Nice. Be taken out. Each of them has 2 fans, double redundancy. We like it. Then we have power plugs that are not actually attached to the power supplies. That's a bit weird. Then we have a green button, which I really don't know what is for. ARD. If anyone knows what that does, please leave that in the comments. Yeah, maybe green line? I have no idea. We have a communication port, COM port. We have 2 USB connections, 2 USB 3 connections, awesome. Then we have 4 LAN ports, each supplying 1 gigabit of network connection. We have a reset button. This has multiple functions. You need to read up on that. You know, sometimes you press it shortly and it will reboot. If you press it long, it will do something else. And here are those 2 expansion ports where you can connect a box much like this, but only with drives inside. It's not as if those boxes are a lot cheaper than this one, but they are a bit cheaper than this one. So yeah, there are 2 of those, so you can expand it. Over here we have 2 PCI Express ports, the low form factor ones, so only low form factor, and yeah, cool. The specs of this is pretty impressive. They say that it can supply up to 3.5 gigabytes per second with 282,000 IOs under RAID 5 configuration with VLANs. And so yeah, that's pretty nice. This one, it came with 4 gigabytes of RAM, and this one still has 4 gigabytes of RAM. It can be expanded to 32 gigabytes of RAM, and the 12 hard disk trays can go up to 216 terabytes of storage capacity. That is quite a lot. Oh, let's turn it around. Well, maybe just for a little bit. It comes. You can open up this cover, which is kind of weird. It has 4 big fans in here, really well placed in the middle of the server. This is actually a very, very good way to do it. I am told from the engineers at Lenovo. They said that this is the best way to do it. They actually made hot block fans that you could mount from the front, and they would go in and slide in, and they would be in the middle of the server, because that was the best way to do it. Then with 12 drives, it has 3 SATA connections coming in from the system board in the back here. So there is 3 SATA cables going in here, and then there is a lot of power connections coming from the power supplies that goes in there. All the front here is just a backplane where the drives are located. We could probably take a couple of drives out and see that backplane. Is the backplane, and you can see there's holes between the drives, so that there is room for some airflow. And it does look like that it could take SAS drives, but I do believe that this box is only supposed to be taking SATA drives. And if we look very closely, it also says SATA 3 down there. We can't focus on that, can we? Maybe. It does say SATA 3 down there, but well, maybe we can see it, maybe we can't. I'll see and we'll check that in editing. But yeah, there's a big backplane that goes all the way. It might be 3 separate backplanes. It looks like there's a backplane there and a backplane there, and then there's one at the top. So it might go that way, that we have long strips of backplanes, and then there's 4 drives on each of those. That would be consistent with the way that the connections here are located. So yeah, it's not bad. So let's check it out on the back. Here we can see the power connections, and it smells like that those are 3 separate backplanes, because each of them have 2 power connections coming in. So probably a power connection from each of the 2 power supplies. That would make sense to keep up with the redundant solution that we all love. So I'm removing a couple of screws here to get rid of this back plate, so that we can go in and see the processor and the RAM and stuff. So that comes off rather easily. I tested it and I loosened that one, and that wasn't necessary. This one doesn't need to come out to get access to the good stuff here. Here is kind of the boot ROM where the Synology software is located, and the 2 PCI Express ports are here. You can put in 10 gigabit Ethernet connections in here. So 2 cards with each 2 ports, so you can actually get the server up to 40 gigabits, though divided on 4 ports. The processor in this is an i3 4130. It's a dual core 3.6 gigahertz with hyperthreading, so it's 4 threads, and that is located here. I am very interested in if it's possible to upgrade this. This uses the ordinary LGA 1150 slot down here, and a lot more powerful processors are available for that slot. This has a TDP of 54 watts, and it benchmarks around 3283. Compared to my NAS in the Datacenter, mine has an older Atom processor in there. Even though it has 4 cores, it's only benchmarks at about 2086. So this is about 1200 benchmarking points faster. But the socket in this is the same as in my Lenovo mini PC, tiny PC, and I was able to put a Xeon processor in that one. So that could be a really interesting experience to see if you can replace the CPU. I haven't looked that up, but very interesting. There are 4 slots for RAM here, and this NAS has the original RAM in there. These are the very expensive Synology RAM. It uses DDR3 RAM, 1600 megahertz. This is a 2 gigabyte block because, well, there's 2 of them, so 4 gigabytes of memory, and it has the warranty Synology if removed label. So yeah, the box came with 5 years of warranty, which is a lot for a Synology box. I did do a video about service on my DS 1815 Plus because I was kind of disappointed with that one at a point, but this is their high-end server equipment, and I am told that support is better on this. So let's put this back in. As said, it should be possible to upgrade this server to 32 gigabytes of memory, which means that you would have to put in 8 gigabyte sticks. So there. It looks like an ordinary motherboard, just without all the normal stuff that you'll find in a computer. So there's output ports, there's ports for the different fans here, and those SAS connections go directly down to the system board. I'm guessing that might be the SAS connector. I'm guessing that this might be related to the SAS card. Over here is another big chip that's probably some Intel chipset or whatever other chipset this is. So yeah, it's very much like a server with some drives in front of it and redundant power, fans. Yeah, but very much like Apple, even though it looks like standard components. Well, they only have this motherboard and a few other motherboards, so they don't need to be compatible with as much. So they are able to get a lot more performance out of their stuff because they don't have to. You don't have to have drivers for a graphics card. You don't have to have drivers for every network card on the market. It only has drivers for just a few network cards, which are usually very, very expensive. So that is good, and that is of course also sometimes bad. Oops, I think I said that this would run 3.6 gigahertz. It is only 3.4 gigahertz, so already made a bit of a mistake there. Otherwise, this NAS is very much like any other Synology NAS. So if you already have a home NAS from Synology, it's not a big deal to manage a big NAS like this. Even though it's a big server box, well, it does more or less the same thing as your little 2-bay NAS at home, and it has just grown. You will see some more drives. It has a bigger capacity. It can do more stuff faster, but mostly it's just faster. Some of these high-end NASs does have other applications that you can use. It of course comes with all the Synology software. That would be surveillance station, VPN server, mail station, antivirus essential, time backup, cloud station, backup station, file station, backup solution, mail server, FTP server, web station, printer server, log center, and a lot of apps for Android and iOS to control it from your phone and do, well, all of the packages. And it can be used for virtualization. You can have virtual machines running on here. You can have Docker running on here. It's a NAS with a built-in server. So putting the cover back on, we are not going to be doing anything inside of it. We are also not going to be turning it on because this is not mine, and I don't want to mess it up for my good friend who's going to be playing with this. So yeah, he gets to have all the fun. So 12,000 Danish kroners, which comes to just under $2,000. And it's a lot of money for a NAS, which, as you can see, is just, oh, it's a nice server rack mountable box. Inside you have something that looks like a cheap motherboard from a PC, but you have dual power supply. Then you have room for 12 drives in the front, but it's very specialized made. You don't get a cheap PC motherboard with 3 built-in internal SATA connections that can handle 12 drives on the front. Well, I would actually be surprised if Supermicro don't have something like that. They kind of have everything. But a lot of what you buy here is the software package behind it. Everything is optimized for this hardware so that it will run really well. And Synology is really good at keeping their systems up to date and keep giving you packages years after years after years, where many other brands will stop after some years and then, well, the final update is there and they will maybe give you an update if something really critical happens. Well, 10 years old Synology stuff, it will still get new updates, new features and new stuff. And in that regard, they are brilliant. And the packages available for this is really well made. It's really easy to install and work with. And yeah, it's just a joy. And I do know that lots of you guys will be sitting out there and screaming Unraid and free NAS, and yeah, if that's the right thing for you, that's the right thing for you. I replaced free NAS back in 2011 with a Synology box. I have had free NAS as well, replaced it. This was easier for me, not even this one. The Synology box I had back then was a tiny little consumer model, and it worked awesome for me for 8 years until I sold it for 1/4 of the price that I bought it from. In my mind, Synology is the equipment that you install it and you leave it and it runs. And it can be set to update itself. It will just update. And it might tell you about it if you want it to, but otherwise it can just update and reboot when it needs to. And you can set it to do it at a convenient time where no one will ever know. So that is cool. Right over here is my old file server from when I wanted to manage everything myself. I was running Novel NetWare for many years, and well, at some point I thought, well, the future for Novel NetWare has come and gone, and I moved to FreeNAS and I ran that for a little bit and I replaced it with a Synology box. And I'm on my 9th year with that decision. I replaced the first Synology box with the second Synology box, and I'm on the 3rd Synology box. The two of them I still have. I have one Synology box in the Datacenter and I have one in the living room, and that's my home redundancy system. Both systems has their own redundancy, but I am backing up from one to another one. Remember, RAID is never replacement for backup. Should you buy one of these? I really don't know. It's rather expensive. It really depends on what you want to use it for. But I will be very interested to figure out if my friend here is going to be able to upgrade the processor. If you put in a good Xeon processor, which can fit in that socket, you could run some really serious virtual machines on here. 32 gigabytes of memory. It can do some decent virtualizations on the side. Or it can do Plex decoding and all that good stuff. I really like Synology myself, so I might be biased on this, but I highly recommend it, even though I had some bad experience with their service a couple of years ago. But the rest of it, no complaints. Thank you very much to my good buddy Martin for letting me have a look at this. He just bought it today, drove directly from where he picked this up and up here to my PlayHouse so that I could do a video on it, because I was curious. And now I get to share it with you, and it's quite expensive to get hold of all of this hardware, so I'm very happy that I could get to do a bit of screwing around with it before he messes it up. So thank you very much for watching my videos. Do subscribe to my channel so that you can see me again, and have a really nice day. Bye bye.